Hello, everybody. My name is Nidhi. I'm from Pepperscript, and thank you for joining us today. Today, we'll be discussing writing for pleasure and publication. There are differences, as we know, between writing for pleasure and writing for publication. They're both creative writing, but the presentation differs a bit. And to know those differences and understand them, we have today with us Kavya Sharma. Hello, Kavya.
Hi,
And
Nidhi.
Kavya is the founder and editor-in-chief of Words of Silence, a literary magazine specially dedicated to South Asian artists, and it's great. You guys need to check it out. And she has had a long career in publishing, and I think she can give us some really great insights. Hello, Kavya. Would you like to say something?
Hi, Nidhi. I'm super happy to be a part of this podcast by Pepperscript, and I'm really looking forward to share whatever little experience I have in the field and help whoever I can in my own way. Thank you for having me.
We're like more than glad to have you because going through all your work that you're doing, especially with the literary magazine, and how you've managed to provide a platform to people, and because publishing in India is still a bit confusing for a lot of people. It's a well established market, and a lot of people know, okay, books are is the basis of civilization anyway, right? But the importance of knowing how the industry works and what are the ins and outs, is very confusing for a lot of people still. So you've had a thorough knowledge of all this, especially the type of writing that gets you in the door, or especially for publication. So what do you think a person needs to keep in mind while submitting their project or, short story, anything that they're working on to get it accepted or at least, a second look?
Right. Of course, the first thing that is the most important thing is content. If your content is not good enough, if it is not up to the quality, then no publishing house will be accepting it. Of course, when publishing houses are accepting work, the first thing that they look for is content quality. Then, what is the current trend that is going on? Are people reading mythology more? Are people reading romance fiction more? Are they reading drama more? Because the trends keep on shifting, there are
Yes.
times when we have more audience for mythological fiction and then we have more audience for non-fiction. So you have to also keep a track of current trends. The second aspect is, and a lot of people tend to ignore this, is proofread your work enough before submitting it to publishers. I often see that so many people, even though their content quality is good, they make so many grammatical errors and punctuation errors and spelling mistakes in their book, and that's a big no-no. When
Yeah.
publishers are looking for your work or are in the need of accepting your work, the basic thing that they see is that the language is fine, that it's properly structured. That's very important.
Yeah.
Thirdly, another thing is that create a pre-base for yourself before actually approaching publishers. Like, self-edit your book also. Never submit a very shoddy work to publishers, because they are looking for professional work themselves, right? They are looking for writers who
Yeah.
are serious about their work. So
Yes.
do a bit of pre-base, create an audience also for yourself. So author bio is one of the most important aspects that publishers look for when they are accepting submissions. What all have you done in the field? Have you participated in any other anthologies, have or poetry contests or short story contests, or have you just done anything in the field prior to this? Just so that they get
Okay.
an idea as to what is your standing and knowledge of the field. That's very important. Then they also obviously look for synopsis, chapter wise analysis. So get your work done properly. And one last point that I have in mind is that every good publishing house has a proper website. Go to that
Okay.
website, check
Yeah.
the proper guidelines. What are they actually asking for? Do not over submit, do not under submit. Submit only what has been asked of you. So be very do your proper research before submitting, I guess.
Okay, that's very to the point. And you also talked about how people can, participate in contests and anthologies before actually submitting their core work. So, is it a better idea to go for, let's say, literary magazines and, normal short story contests that keeps on happening all around the year and participate in literature festivals
I think
then
it's
before
really,
submitting it?
Yes, I think it's very important. We all want to be writers, and there's no harm in it. But we don't want to take smaller steps. We want to take a direct leap towards becoming full-fledged authors. I think it's very
Yeah.
important to take smaller steps as well. Before publishing a full-fledged book, why not write a short story and see if some literary magazine or contest accepts it? Or why not writing
Hmm.
2 3 pieces of poetry and seeing that is it good enough that people are accepting it or rejecting it? Not only does it give you a good boost and motivation that okay, you're on the right track, and there are
Hmm.
people out there who like your work, and you're reading enough, you're working enough, but it also helps you grow as a writer. So I think
Yes.
that sets a very good pre-base.
Okay. Feedback is really important, basically, to cover it up and work it out so you can submit your main project.
Absolutely.
Interesting. Okay, so and you have a lot of experience as scouting people, So a lot of people have this dream of anyway, oh, our story is like great enough, and then suddenly a book is gonna be published out of it, life story, whatever it is. So, what is the best way you think, or people for to put across their content to actually be seen by publishing houses?
What is the best way to be seen by the publishing houses?
Yeah, and like gets you can get contacted first. Like you don't have to go and contact them, but they come to you. Like what sort of work is it? Like is it continuous share of work on social medias or blog post, or continuously participating in contests so your name is out there, and
Right.
so they just come to you? Is Yeah.
Right. I think, yes. Nowadays, especially because marketing is so important in the book publishing industry, a lot of people have misconceptions that, as an author, you just have to write the book and get done with it. And then it is the
Yeah.
publisher's responsibility to take care of everything. It does not work like that anymore. Uh, it is your baby, it is your hard work, it is your book, and you have to work hard on it till the time it is in there in the market. Okay. So,
Okay.
have an idea that you don't just have to write your book, you also have to self edit your book, and you also need to know how to market your book well. That's what the publishers are looking for, that people are already aware that they need to work hard to sell your book, because personally I feel it is easier to write a book than to sell it. You can write a book, but it's so difficult to sell a book in the market, to convince people that your writing is good enough. But then how do you
Yeah.
convince people that your writing is good enough? By again creating a pre-base, open an Instagram account, have a YouTube channel, post your poems or short stories on Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever writing platform that you're comfortable on, right? And be active there. Okay, it is important that you grow your readers before actually writing a book, because who is going to purchase your book, right? It's not just your family and
Yes.
friends. You want strangers to connect with your book. You want people who don't know where you're coming from to connect with your book and to buy your book. How will they buy your book if they don't know how you write, if they don't
Yes.
trust your work? So you need to present your work to them in free format, whether it is through Instagram posts or Facebook posts or LinkedIn posts, or even submitting on platforms like Terribly Tiny Tales and writing apps like Quora and stuff like that. There are so many platforms where people can share their writings nowadays. This helps you grow a readership. So if you have good enough readership, your content quality is good, you're aware of your writing style and your comfort zone, your strengths and weaknesses, you know how to market your book, I think publishers will be really happy with this combination, the mix of a person.
Yeah, so this also brings me to a curious question basically. Nowadays, as you said, that publishers are looking for more, all-rounder sort of situation rather than just a writer. So let's say people who are just interested in writing don't have any idea about, how to do marketing or even social media, because most people don't feel like putting their work out there thinking, oh, this one could be published, so why should I share it for free? That
Yeah.
uh, mindset and that concept that they follow, what do you think should be done about that?
Honestly, yes, there is a confusion, because as writers, it's sad that we have to share our work for free. Like, why should we,
Yeah.
right? This is our creativity, this is our talent. Why we should be getting paid for it? But then
Yeah.
art is such sometimes a thankless field to be in. People want to consume free art. They don't really want to pay for it. They want to attend free concerts, few free musical stuff. They want to get free books. And I'm not just talking about writing. I'm talking about any sort of art that there is. People still do not completely understand the value of art, and it's sad. It's slowly changing, but we still have a long way to go. So how I
That's true.
personally do it is I divide my work. There is work that I know that I will only share and get paid for. So I'm writing it for the purpose of selling and getting money out of it. And then there is
Okay.
work that I'm okay sharing it for free to gain some readership, to gain my people's trust that they eventually buy my book. So you have to learn to divide your content accordingly so that you can share some, earn money out of some. And that's something that
Yes.
you have to learn over time through reading and through enough writing. That's why I always tell this, and because I take a lot of workshops and a lot of creative writing batches, that if you really want to get into writing and do it professionally, you have to be regular with it. You can't just be like, okay, I don't feel like writing, I'll not write for this for the next 6 months and then just write for a month. That's quick, that's a long gap. It's been so many years, and I can tell you I write every day because that's how I earn. That's what my passion is. That's what I live for, and it's a mix of both.
That's so, yeah. To but creative writing personally, and to actually make sure that this dilemma goes through, like you, as you said, having something to share and then having something to sell, and actually working on your craft along the way and sharing it with people. So what do you think is the best way to enhance it as well, so you can continuously keep giving your stuff out there instead of, and making yourself better as well along with it?
Yes. Now that's one thing that I've seen in a lot of people. We all want to write, but we don't want to read enough. Okay, and that's not going to work if you want to be a good writer in life ahead. Reading is so much important. Is so important to become a good writer. Okay, reading gives you enough exposure. It helps you understand that how other people are writing and growing. It motivates you. It gives you newer and better ideas to work on your own thing. And sometimes if you read bad books and badly written shoddy work, you also realize that this is what you don't have to do. You also learn the negatives of writing bad things. So personally, I
True.
think you shouldn't just be reading good books. You should also read average books and bad books to understand what you shouldn't be doing it with your own work. So reading a
Yes.
lot helps. Practice daily writing. I think this one thing that I talk about writer's block is that I personally feel writer's block is just people fearing writing bad. They fear that, oh, it's
Mm.
just not coming from within, it's not going to come out nice, let me not write. I feel when you're not feeling like writing, write it and get the bad content out of your zone. Just let it out, because you can't always write good. Not every piece that you write is going to be your best piece, but to get that best piece out, you have to write bad also sometimes. So do not
True.
fear writing bad. That's all.
That's a very nice way to put it. Like, of course, life is all about ups and downs. So writing is similar to that. So if there's good, there's going to be bad as well. So, and
Yeah.
you talked about reading all kind of books. So I think the most popular thing recently, and with the boost in book community recently, especially during COVID era, I've seen a lot of writing prompts going around, especially with small poetry. So what do you think about those?
I think writing prompts are amazing, especially if you're struggling to understand what is your writing style. Because every writer has his or her own writing style. Some people are good at writing love poems. Some people are good at writing stories on politics. Some people are good at writing about social issues. But to understand what is your writing style, like what is your strength, you have to try out and experiment different things. And that's where I feel that writing prompts can play an amazing role, because if you try different things and different styles of writing prompts, they will eventually make you realize that this is what you enjoyed writing the most, and this is what come out as the best piece that you've written. And it helps you analyze yourself better as a writer. So I think writing prompts can be amazing.
So, do you have any favorite writing prompt, or let's say a quote that makes you want to write something based on that or start a story?
I'm very bad at remembering quotes, but whenever I feel like things are not coming, I'm confused. To motivate myself, I give myself a writing prompt of automatic writing. So automatic writing is something wherein if nothing is coming to you, you just open a diary and you write whatever is coming to your mind, like any feeling. It can be totally confusing, it can be a puzzle, it does not have to make sense, you just have to write it out to get the things out of your head. It's like a very personal form of journaling. Okay, that's what I do to get things out of my out of my mindset or heart, and to finally get back to my creative zone. So automatic writing has been very helpful for me personally.
So, in along those lines, I believe creative writing workshops or actually working in groups could be useful as well, right?
Absolutely. See, that's another way of approaching it. If you feel like you're struggling to understand whether you enjoy writing poetry or short stories or micro tales or sonnets, because there are so many different styles of writing, attend workshops. So many good organizations and publishing houses and even schools nowadays and colleges are organizing online and offline also now, because COVID is not that much right now. So people have also started
Yeah.
organizing offline workshops on creative writing, on poetry writing, on micro tale writing, on short story writing, on novel writing. So join these workshops. They also give you tasks to do, just like writing prompts. Do those tasks, and whether it's a 1 day workshop or a 1 month workshop or a 3 month course, by the end of it you'll come out with a much clearer head than where you were
Yeah.
before you joined the workshop. So of course workshops are also really helpful in this manner.
That is true. And like with so much publishing and writing that we've been talking about, I think it would be best to ask, what's your favorite book?
That's a very tough question, because I okay, that's very tough. But I'll name one in poetry. I absolutely
Okay.
love Kamla Das's work in poetry. I think she was very raw, relatable, edgy, and every time I feel like I have to read something, I'll go back to Kamla Das. In terms of fiction, I really liked Beloved by Toni Morrison. That's one of my
Nice.
favorite books, and I absolutely loved it.
Wow, that just gave me chills. I also love Toni Morrison. She's one of my favorite writers in fiction, especially, and how diverse the writing is because like the whole process that she takes you through, being a person. Okay, the one thing I can relate to is being a girl from the character that she writes about, but being in that differentiated society and that like whole ordeal that they go through.
Yeah.
Right. Some writers just make you wanna cry your eyes out,
Right.
and she's one of them, I
Absolutely.
believe.
Yes. I
Yeah.
mean, her
So
stories have been very heart wrenching, and they sort of make you feel so uncomfortable, and that's required actually.
yeah, it just makes you see the world a bit differently, or think about what you say next time a bit. Just think about at least for 5 seconds before you say something, because it can affect in so many ways for a person who's going through something that you can't understand. Which also
Absolutely.
turns up to the question of reviewing writing, because that's also a big market. Critiques, reviewers, and especially with the rise of bookstagrammers and
Yeah.
booktube community. So all these reviews coming out, and with the hype of TikTok books and whatnot. So what is your personal process? I would like to know, as a person who's working in publishing full time. Also, what do you think about this sudden rise in this book community?
I think I'm very happy with the sudden rise in the bookstore grammar community, because it motivates a lot of people to actually read books. In India, we are still struggling to understand what entertainment is. We are happy with watching Netflix and Amazon, but books are boring. I don't know why.
Yeah,
The visual form of entertainment is considered more of an entertainment, and reading books is considered boring. And to all those people, there's only one thing I have to say, that you haven't really read good books to be calling books
yes,
boring, right? So
yes.
I think it's good, it's important that Bookstagram community is growing. As long as the reviews are genuine, the reading is genuine, it's a wonderful thing to be happening in the publishing scene. And if I have to talk about how I personally review submissions that we get for Verse of Silence, I think there are a few things that I really look forward to. In short stories, I really look forward to what is the beginning and ending like, because the
Okay.
beginnings and ends have to be really crisp. They have to get the readers right in the mood of the story. They have to be intriguing and interesting enough to create the mood for the reader to want to actually read the story. The first 2 3 lines are good enough for the reader to know whether they should continue reading the story forward or whether they should just leave it because it's not interesting enough. That's the mood. So beginnings and ends are very important. Then of course language, the flow of the story, very important. One thing that a lot of people, first time authors especially, tend to miss out on is tone. What is the tone of
Okay.
the story? How does it sound like? How are your characters talking? Because I should be able to imagine the story happening in my head, even though it's fiction, even though it's fantasy or non-fiction, whatever form it is. I should be able to imagine it in my head happening. So structuring, language, content, beginnings, ends, tone, what are the themes? Are you justifying the themes that you're mentioning? All these aspects are very important. And how have you sort of framed the plot work? What is the order of happening? And I personally feel as writers, we should be taking care of loopholes in our work, right? You can't
Yes,
just be mentioning
definitely.
things without giving proper explanation of how is this happening. So whatever you're writing, even though you're not directly mentioning the reason behind it happening, it should somehow be reflected through your storyline. That's what I look for in short stories. In terms of poetry, flow, very important. Language, very important. Content, of course, quality of your content, very important. And personally, I think I have this thing where I see, if the poem is very flowy, it feels natural that the author or the poet wrote it very naturally. But some poems feel forced when you try
Okay.
to use over vocabulary, when you try
Hmm.
to over define things, when you try to sort of over explain things. It feels like you're not trusting your readers enough. You think
Yes,
they
yes.
might not be able to understand, their fools. You have to trust your reader, they will understand it. So over explaining is something that I tend to avoid when I'm checking submissions, reviewing submissions.
I think that is the biggest, I would say, thing as a reader myself. I look for whenever I go to, especially mystery or thriller books. They
Yeah,
sometimes writers just do not trust us to, follow the clues or something, and they just end up giving us so much that you feel like, why am I feel like a stupid person while reading this book? And
yeah,
nobody like most times you don't want to continue that. So for
yeah,
that, Agatha Christie is amazing. Like she just sprinkle things around, and she actually wholeheartedly believe her writers would solve the story without like going to the
exactly.
end as well. So that is, I wholeheartedly agree with that point of yours. And
Yes.
anyway, so the writing is in itself is a very different and diverse experience for everybody. So currently the listeners, and especially with Pepperscript, we usually work with first time writers, so there everything is quite new for them. They're still trying to understand the market as well, and how to give their writing a place, and um, like actually own the space. So, what do you say about like those people who are first time listeners and first time writers? I'm sorry, listening to this podcast.
Yeah, I think the first advice that I have for you all is, number one, never be overly critical of your writings. If you constantly keep on judging your work, you will never be able to bring out the masterpiece that you're really looking forward to write. And you can't be thinking that it will come in the very first piece that you write. Okay, you have to wait it out. You have to work hard on your art. You have to give it time and patience. You know, and second thing is that you know just fall in love with your own work. Until and unless you learn to fall in love with your own work, you cannot expect your readers to fall in love with it either. Because if the author themselves don't like their work, how can you expect your readers to like it, right?
Yes,
So
true.
fall in love with your work. Don't be overly critical of your writings. Do thorough market research before submitting work anywhere. That's very important. If you know that you do not have enough knowledge of the field, take workshops, do
Yeah.
research, and then go ahead and take a next step. And another and last important factor, grow your readership before actually uh, thinking of professionally taking up things in this field, you know.
Okay, because I would like to comment on that particular point is that getting your readership, like actually making a long list of like people who would be excited to read your first work, let's say. How does it work? Is like social media enough? Because that is the most scary part for most first time writers is
Yeah.
how do you differentiate on, okay, what are they coming here for? Because let's say I haven't published any book but I'm writing. So, but this sort of dilemma is always there, and the scare, how scared they are, and the fear. So,
Yes, social media does play a big role in creating that readership for you. As I said, I personally think be active on any three platforms that you're comfortable with. Uh, those three platforms that I have are Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. I use Instagram for strangers, Facebook for my close knit community, and LinkedIn for my professional work. This is how I have divided these three segments. Another step is submit your work to poetry, short story contests. Okay, that gives you good enough exposure. Submit your work to anthologies, to literary magazines, get published. It boosts your confidence and it grows your readership. Maintain regularity. When I say you have
yes,
to grow your social media, in terms of your authorship and you're wanting to become a writer, I mean post at least 3 to 4 times a week. Only then will your readers grow. And even then, the percentage rate is very less. So if I have
yeah,
10,000 followers on Instagram and if I come up with a book, how many do you think will actually buy the book? Hardly 400,
true.
500 people will actually buy the book. So that's the conversion rate. That's why I'm saying if you at least actually grow your readership on social media platform, you will have some bit of conversion in terms of people actually buying your work. So that's important.
Yes. And that also brings us to like honest feedback because those people are following your journey and they actually are interested in your work. And you might get honest feedback in terms of which will help you with your writing, right? So that is true, but I think always beginning of it is very scary because people don't
Yeah.
realize that how you go about it and turn it into it, and you explained it very specifically. Thank you for that. And I think finally I want to say this was like ages ago. I can probably say you working with Pepperscript, but we really thank you for this little reunion that we've had. And
Yeah.
how do you feel about it?
I am so happy. I remember that right after I had passed my 12th standard, the first publishing internship that I got was was through Pepperscript, and I worked with Pepperscript as an intern, and then I did a lot of editing work also, and it has been such a happy association that it's been so many years, and I'm still around, and now. The position has changed from being an intern to being interviewed, and I think
Yeah.
Pepperscript has also come a long way, and so have I. And I think it's a very happy feeling altogether.
Thank you. So, thank you so much for joining us. So, everybody, that was Writing for Pleasure and Writing for Publication. So, you guys need to check out Kavya's socials for better understanding. She posts regularly and amazing content for you to understand writing. And of course, her writing is mesmerizing in itself. So, you need to check it out. And writing is, anyways, the basis of civilization and one of the best reasons for us to, listen to stories. So, in the words of Maya Angelou, there is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you. So, I would really request you guys to just write it all out and submit your manuscript. Go to that publishing company and go to the literary magazine and submit your work, please. And thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Kavya, for joining us and sharing all your wisdom. That was really enlightening. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.